A fresh start for people in need. Join us for day 3 of our article, A Home for Former Inmates. Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced Studio Classroom, and we are finishing our society article for the month of July. My name is Campbell, and it's great to have you here, and I've got 2 of my friends in the studio with me once again. Hello friends, how are you today?
Oh, good to be here, Campbell. Glad to be your friend.
So that was Lois, and we have Gordon here with us as well.
Yeah, hello listeners, I'm here again as well. Day 3 of this very interesting and I think we all agree important society article.
That's right. So what have we been talking about these past 2 days?
Well, we have been talking about a bunch of women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
We have.
Yes.
We have been talking about nuns and about inmates.
Yes.
This sounds like we should be making a movie, maybe. The nuns and the inmates.
Yeah, I think it either sounds like that or maybe the beginning of a bad joke, but but this certainly isn't a joke, and it's a wonderful article about a group of nuns who are towards the end of their life, and they have welcomed in a group of women who used to be in prison, and they're now out, and the nuns are helping them transition back into normal life and trying to give them a fresh start.
Right. So this place that we're talking about is called the Journey House, and it is a home that is run by an organization called Journey to New Life. And we learned yesterday how this organization, Journey to New Life, got this house, right? You know, someone offered it to them, but at first they weren't sure if they could handle it. Right.
And they just thought it was a crazy idea. Mm-hmm. This is never going to happen. And you know, Campbell, when we were doing day 1 and day 2, our listeners don't know this, but it's been a long time since we've talked so much about our article when we're off the air in between time and coming to the next day to do it, just because I feel this is inspiring the 3 of us.
Yes, definitely, because, you know, we see the impact that this home is having on society and what it means to these former inmates. We heard from a couple of the inmates yesterday, and one of the inmates, Sandy Liddell, says that she doesn't really have a family, not anymore, but the sisters, the nuns who work at this home are her family now, and they've helped her so much. She says that she'll never be able to repay them for what they've done for her, and I think that means a lot.
I think it means a lot. When I was reading this, I thought, wouldn't it be great if some of these women, former inmates, had great success, and they could down the road be somebody who writes a big check and gives back that way.
Right.
Or is able to give their time and volunteer.
That's right.
There's so many things we can do.
Yes.
Sometimes we think they're so little. Boy, they can be so big to so many.
Right. And we found out yesterday that this whole house came to be because there was an anonymous donor that wrote a check for $347,000 to buy the place, to buy this house. And I think that donor probably had no idea the kind of impact that their check would have made. You know, maybe he or she had some sort of idea, but probably wasn't very clear on exactly the kind of impact that their check would be having on these women.
Yeah, it seems to be affecting a lot of people. We learned that 15 women at a time can come and stay with the nuns, and they stay for a short period of time. And the longer this house is open, more and more women are going to be affected, more and more former inmates are going to be helped. And that's going to send more people back into society with a fresh start and positive feelings and support from these nuns. So So yeah, the longer it goes, the even more influence that original charitable giving is going to have.
Right, yeah. And we talked about this organization, Journey to New Life, and their purpose is to help people leaving prison make the transition back into society. And part of that process is giving them a place to stay while they get back on their feet, right? So giving them a place to stay while they look for new jobs and learn new skills and kind of readjust to society.
Right.
All right, so we are going to learn a little bit more about this house today. So please join us for today's article. Our article for today is on page 26. So if you have your magazine or your mobile device, please do join us on today's article.
Offering a fresh start. Susie Rowling, a caseworker at Journey to New Life, knows all the sisters well. They are doing what Jesus would do, reaching out to society's forgotten population, Rowling said. They are giving these women love, dignity, and a fresh start, which is not what they would get from their PO, parole officer, or a halfway house. The women range in age from 23 to 55. Some are estranged from family. Almost all had been imprisoned for nonviolent crimes, mostly associated with addiction.
I think it's really beautiful what these nuns are doing and what they're offering to these women. So we start our article hearing from Susie Rowling, and she's a caseworker at Journey to New Life. Now, what is a caseworker, Lois?
Well, a caseworker is a person who works to provide assistance and counseling, especially for those who are disadvantaged.
That's right. So their job is to help people. Some of you know my daughter. She's a special needs child. So we have our own caseworker who helps us to find different classes and benefits and different assistance that we might be able to get to help our daughter as she grows and as she needs to get different kinds of help.
Right, so she kind of helps share the load with you as parents.
Right, exactly. And I mean, we don't know a lot of times what the society, what the government offers. And so her job is to help us be aware of these things. So Susie Rowling, she's a caseworker. She works, I'm sure, with these former inmates and helps them to transition. And she knows all the sisters well, right? The sisters here again are this refers to the nuns that live at this house. And what does Susie say that they do?
Well, this must be a massive compliment to the nuns who are working here. She says that they are doing what Jesus would do, reaching out to society's forgotten population. And of course, for these nuns, that is exactly what they want to do in their life. They want to emulate, that is, to try and act the way that Jesus did when he was on earth.
That's right. And I love this next sentence. She says that they are giving these women love, dignity, and a fresh start.
That means a lot. Not only do they have the love of these nuns, but to be able to have dignity, keep your dignity. Don't feel like you're a charity case. And then we also have this fresh start. I'm going to begin again.
That's right. And I think these three things are very important to people who are coming out of prison to feel loved, to feel accepted, and that, that they are cared for, and that dignity is very important to feel that, I still have value and I am still important in the society, and a new beginning. And this is not something that they would get from their parole officer or a halfway house.
Right. This is so much more personal, right?
That's right.
It's just really caring about the whole person.
So we find out a little bit more about these women. They range in age from 23 to 55, and some of them are estranged from family. What does that mean?
To be estranged from your family is to have lost contact with them, normally as a result of an argument or a big disagreement. So you're no longer in touch with your family.
Right. So we can imagine these women, they got in trouble, and I'm sure for, a time before they went to prison, they were maybe in trouble with the law or doing illegal things, and so they lost contact with their family, and then once they got locked away, then they were not able to contact the outside world so much, and so they've been estranged from their family. And this kind of goes back to what Sandy Liddell was saying yesterday. She doesn't have a family, not anymore.
Right. Yeah, they don't want to see her.
So these women are finding a new family here, and almost all of them had been imprisoned for non-violent crimes, mostly associated with addiction. Now, when we talk about crimes, we kind of split them into two categories, right? Some are non-violent and some are violent. What are non-violent crimes?
So non-violent crimes do not involve violence or assault on another person.
Right.
They may involve, say, tax fraud or non-violent theft.
Right. So stealing and drug addiction and selling drugs, things like that.
Right.
So you're not attacking or hurting anyone else. So most of these women have been involved with non-violent crimes, mostly associated with addiction, and we learned this word in day one. Addiction is just this need or this desire for something that you can't control.
Right.
So people have addiction to drugs and pornography and gambling and food and different things like that.
And now to kind of social media, or also some of the games that people get addicted to that are done through the internet.
Right. Or even coffee. Right?
Coffee.
Some people have this addiction to coffee.
Or chocolate.
Where you just feel like you can't control it. You have to have it, right? And certain addictions are not illegal, but certain addictions are. And these women, for the most part, have been dealing with addiction, and now they're coming out of it.
I found that age fascinating, that we've just learnt in this paragraph, that if they're aged between 23 and 55, and we learnt on the first day that the nuns are aged between 72 and 87. You really see a big gap there,
Yes.
but also a broad range. In the same house, there's a 23-year-old and an 87-year-old,
Right.
and all kinds of ages in
Exactly.
between.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking when we saw 23 to 55, I was thinking that represents this panel here today. That's the ages. We're in between those ages.
That's right.
And they are the former inmates that now live with the nuns. And I just still find out just flabbergasting to me that these nuns are elderly for the most part.
Right.
Elderly, obviously they're very mobile,
Yes.
and they have, their wits. We say their wits about it, about them. They're not confused or anything. It's just remarkable.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the age actually works out because in a way, the 70-year-olds kind of become like a mother, right? To these 40, 50-year-olds, right?
Right.
And for the younger ones, the 20, 30-year-olds, they're kind of like grandmothers, right? So in a way, they kind of serve as like the mothers.
Yeah, that's right.
So it kind of, I feel like that age kind of makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, we continue our article, and we're going to find out more about a day in the life of these people here at this Journey House. So please join us on line 12 of page 26.
On a recent morning as coffee dripped, talk was mostly about jobs, classes, drug tests, and court cases. Some, like Veronica Pullen, 43, spend time upstairs in the computer room, where the equipment was donated to help with job searches, studying, and reestablishing family ties. Pullen had been a wife, mother, and truck driver until going to prison. She was addicted to opiates. she had no way to talk with her children until finding them on Facebook. Now she often wakes to her young daughter's words, "Hi, Mommy," which sometimes makes her cry. "I want my life back," Pullen said. The women do all the cleaning and cooking. "We get to come and go. They just like to know where we are," said Lenine Mason, who hopes to land a job as a nursing assistant.
We learned on day one that these women, after they transition out of prison and they enter this home, with each passing day, they grow in their ease and their candor, and they share more and more about themselves and their lives. And so we hear today that on a recent morning, as coffee dripped, talk was mostly about what? What were they talking about?
Well, it's the practical things of life in many ways, their life anyways, because they're talking about jobs, classes, drug tests, and court cases. This is their reality.
Right, things that are going on in their lives. And we hear about a woman named Veronica Pullen. She is 43. And what does she spend most of her day doing?
Well, she spends time on the computer. So we hear that there's a computer room in this house, and that equipment was donated by people. We learned yesterday when they set up the house, they had a lot of help, a lot of volunteers who contributed towards the house. So Veronica's on the computer and she's searching for jobs, because this is a transitional house. The women come here from prison and then hopefully move on and get a job and can re-enter society. And she's also, which is nice, is re-establishing family ties. So she's reconnecting with her family.
Right. So this connects back to day one, where we found out that the idea of Journey House is that they would help the women with job searches, life skills, rehabilitation, and health care. Right. So we see here again, she is able to search for employment, and she is studying, so she's learning new life skills and rehabilitation, which part of that is reestablishing family ties. What was Pullen's life like before prison?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this. This was a hard part for me because of the age the woman is, 43 years old. I remember when I was this age and raising a family, it says that she had been a wife, she'd been a mother, and truck driver until going to prison. So to me, I'm like, wow, you had this life. You really had a life.
Yeah, she had children.
And then something happened, and you ended up going to prison, and she was addicted to opiates. If you don't know what that is, folks, that's any number of narcotic drugs that originate with the opium poppy. She had no way to talk with her children until finding them on Facebook.
Right. So I don't think it was ever her intention. I don't think she probably expected to ever go to prison. But she somehow got addicted to opiates.
Probably to keep her awake, being a truck driver, because probably most of her driving, I know this is the case in Canada, I'm sure the US and the UK as well, is done at night. So here she is a mom, maybe she's up all day with her kids and, doing the motherly thing, getting a little bit of a nap or something, but now she has to work maybe afternoon, evening shift, and she's tired.
Right, yeah. And I think a lot of times it's never their intention to end up in prison, but, different life circumstances cause them to have to get a job or do these different things, and then one thing leads to another. And so she, 43 is not that far off from me. She's about, 9-10 years older than me. So, I think of, if I suddenly went to prison and I lost touch with my children, how hard that would be. I'm sure her children at that time were probably in their teens or maybe even younger.
That's
and so I'm sure that was very difficult for her. But this place, this Journey House, is able to offer her computer services, and so she's able to reconnect with her children through the modern technology of Facebook. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think Facebook, some people think it's a bad thing. I think it depends on how you use it, right?
Like so many things in life.
Yes, Facebook can actually be a very good thing, like in this case, where she's able to reconnect with her children. And now she often wakes up to what?
To her young daughter's voice saying, "Hi, Mummy," which is, that's very sweet. She says that she wants her life back, and what you've discussed how difficult this change will have been in her life, and this house really gives her the chance to begin reestablishing that life.
Right, to start over.
Right, and you can understand what she shares. I hear "Hi, Mommy," and that sometimes makes me cry. You can understand why that is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, she's being very open and honest for this article, and I think we appreciate it because she's telling us her story.
Yeah. Now we find out that the women in this house do all the cleaning and cooking. So like I said, they're right. These nuns are kind of their mothers, right? So they're kind of like living together and they're doing chores, right? And this next part really kind of hammers in this idea of mothers and children, right? This Lenine Mason says that they get to come and go, but what?
Well, they get to come and go, but they also they just like to know where we are. That does sound like Mom.
Right? So the nuns, they want to know where you are, right? And I mean, that makes sense. They want to make sure you're not getting in trouble and you're not going back to your old life and things like that. And so Lenine Mason hopes to land a job, which means to get a job as a nursing assistant. All right. Well, let's finish up our article on the right-hand column of page 26.
Practicing what they preach. When the place first opened, the thought was that a typical stay would be 30 days. Now it's looking more like 90. But that's okay, McClarney said. What happens here is too important. It's one thing to say we see God in everyone. Here we live it every day. This is the walk. At 10 p.m., the long day at Journey House ends. McClarney, the early riser, already sleeps. Gates closed, lights out, hearts stoked.
This is a great ending to this article. I feel that it's kind of brought us through this journey. So we find out that this place really practices what they preach. What does that mean when you practice what you preach?
Well, it's a great idiom, and it means to do things that you advise others to do. You're living a life that we can kind of say is a testimony to what you say. And actually you don't even need to say anything because people see, hey, they're a generous person. They don't even have to tell me that. I see it in their everyday life.
Yeah, another idiom we often use is to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, right? So to do what you say. So we often think of people in the church talking about loving others and helping others and serving others, and that's kind of the thing that they preach, that they speak of. They speak on, but they're not just talking about it, they're actually doing it. When the place first opened, they thought that a typical stay would be 30 days, but they found out differently.
Yeah, these women are ending up staying, some of them up to 90 days, which is 3 months. That's fascinating because it means that they're really going to nurture and develop a good relationship with these nuns and with each other. And you can imagine if there's a former inmate who's been there coming up towards the end of a stay, been there nearly 90 days, and a new one comes. You can imagine them interacting and saying, okay, I've been here for 3 months and this is what it is like here, and that'll help the process along.
Right, yeah. And McClarney is okay with that, right? She says that what happens here is too important. And then we have a quote from her. She says, "It's one thing to say we see God in everyone. Here we live it every day. This is the walk." I think that's really beautiful, because we often talk about seeing the beauty in everyone, you know, and some of these inmates, it might not be as easy to see that beauty right off. You know, they've kind of had the hard life, and so they've become hardened. And some of them may be kind of sheltered and defensive.
Right.
Right.
And I like that they don't have their own agenda at Journey House. That, hey, you better be through this program and it better be done in this many days, because we're kind of running like a military. They're not like that.
Right. Yeah. So they kind of help them transition, and they're really focusing on loving these women. And so we started our article early in the morning when it's cold and dark, and now we're finishing our article. It is 10 p.m. The long day at Journey House ends. Muklarni, the sister that we started our article off, now ends our article. She goes to bed, right, because she is an early riser, which means that she gets up early in the morning. Now the gates that we opened up at the beginning of our article have now closed. The lights are out, and the hearts are stoked. Well, it's been a really great 3 days talking about this article. We've certainly learned a lot, and I feel that all three of us have been inspired. I hope that you've been inspired to go out and to help others, and to try to see God in other people, right? And to see the best in people, and to try to help them as much as you can, right? And again, it's not about the money. All of us have different things that we can do to help. We can offer our time, our services, our gifts and talents, as well as our money. So we hope that this article has inspired some of you to go out and make a difference. And thanks for joining us for the past 3 days. Remember to write to us and let us know what you thought of this article. Also, remember to check out our QR code at the bottom of page 26 and the top of page 24. Thanks for joining us, friends. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.